She was never meant to speak. Tonight, Miguel Reed, the most feared Camorra boss in Europe, is 30 seconds from signing away $200 million on a piece of parchment that smells like history and lies. The ink is perfect. The seal is perfect. The aged vellum is perfect. Everything is perfect except the Calabrian dialect written on it, a dialect so obscure it died with the grandmothers of mountain villages 50 years ago. And the only person alive who can still read it is the Waitress. If you're enjoying this story, go on and hit subscribe button. It keeps the family growing and guarantees you don't miss the next move. Turn on notifications, you'll want to know when the next tale drops. London, November 20th, 2025. Rain lashes the tall windows of Villa Aurora, a Georgian townhouse turned fortress club where billionaires and warlords dine behind soundproof doors and armed shadows. Amelia Chase, dark hair scraped into a severe ponytail, eyes fixed on the floor, moves like a ghost between tables. 4 years ago, she was Amelia Costa, 20-year-old prodigy publishing papers that made Vatican archivists weep. Then her father took 3 bullets in a Naples alley for refusing to finish one perfect forgery. She vanished the same night, took a new name, and swore she would never touch another ancient document. Now the only thing that matters is the envelope of cash tips that keeps her mother alive on machines in Zurich. Tonight, she is invisible. Until she is not. The private salon on the 2nd floor is lit low and dangerous. 8 men sit around the table, but only one truly owns the room. Miguel Reed sits at the head, midnight suit cut close to a fighter's body, white shirt open at the throat to reveal the faded black Madonna del Pollino tattooed over his heart. To his right is Matteo, younger, leaner, the brother Miguel chose when blood proved too thin. A sweating Belgian broker hovers opposite them, sliding an open velvet box across the walnut. Inside lies the 1799 Calabrian land grant deed that will supposedly return the Reed family's mountain estates. A gold Mont Blanc pen rests beside a crystal flute of champagne. $200 million waits for one signature. Amelia steps forward to clear the antipasti. Her gaze drifts across the parchment for half a heartbeat, and the world stops. The phrasing is impossible. One short clause uses a possessive form unique to 3 villages above Cosenza before 1920. No modern forger could know it. Someone wants Miguel Reed bankrupt, humiliated, and very probably dead. She has seconds. Speak and every gun in the room will turn on her. Stay silent, and the man whose family once hit hers during the war will lose everything. Amelia sets the tray down with a soft click that sounds like a round chambering. She straightens, looks Miguel Reed in the eye for the first time. In a voice like cold mountain wine, she speaks 6 words in perfect, ancient Calabrian. U sigillu e bonu, ma lingua e falsa. The seal is good, but the tongue is false. The room freezes. Champagne stops halfway to lips. 8 pistols clear leather in perfect silence. Miguel's head snaps up. His eyes widen, not with rage, but with raw shock. No one outside the hamlet of San Luca has spoken that dialect in 50 years. No scholar. No priest. Certainly no English waitress. Matteo is already half out of his chair. Miguel? Miguel raises one finger. Every guard freezes. Say it again, he orders in Italian, voice low enough to cut glass. Amelia repeats the sentence, slower, letting every archaic syllable ring. The Belgian goes the color of old ash. This is ridiculous. The Milan laboratory. Miguel silences him with a look. Then to Amelia, who taught you? My father, she answers in the same dialect. Before they killed him for refusing to write lies exactly like these. Miguel studies her for a long moment, then gestures to 3 sealed folders on the credenza. Those came yesterday. My authenticator says they are genuine. Prove you are right. Amelia steps forward. The guards part like water. She opens the first folder, scans half a page, and shakes her head. Fake. The notary flourish is backwards. Photographic reversal. Second folder. Fake. Paper is rag, but the watermark is 1950s filigrano. Third. Fake. The ink contains modern titanium dioxide. She closes the last folder and meets Miguel's stare. He smiles, slow and lethal. Name your price. My mother is in Zurich. The treatment is expensive. Money is no longer your problem. He turns to the Belgian. Take him downstairs. Quietly. 2 guards drag the broker away. The man's pleas fade behind the soundproof door. Miguel stands. The room seems smaller with him in it. You work for me now. Only for me. Everything you want you have. Your mother will have the best clinic in Europe starting tonight. Jet leaves in 2 hours if you wish to go to her. Amelia feels the floor shift under her feet. 4 years of hiding, of silence, of terror, erased in 6 words. She draws a breath that tastes like freedom and danger mixed. I accept. Across the table, Mateo watches her with eyes suddenly dark and unreadable, fingers drumming once on the walnut before going still. Outside, the rain keeps falling, hard and cleansing, over a city that has no idea everything just changed. The soundproof door closed behind the Belgian with a soft, final click. Amelia stood in the sudden hush, 8 pistols still half-raised, rain drumming against the windows like it wanted inside. Miguel broke the silence first. Mateo, clear the room. Everyone. Mateo hesitated a fraction longer than usual, then nodded. Chairs scraped. Footsteps receded. The door shut again, leaving only the 3 of them and the smell of cold antipasti. Miguel did not sit. He rounded the table slowly, studying her the way a man studies a loaded gun he has just discovered is aimed at his enemies instead of himself. You will leave this place tonight and never return as staff, he said. My car is downstairs. You have 10 minutes to collect whatever you need from your flat. 1 bag. Amelia found her voice. My shift ends at 2. Your life as you knew it ended 6 minutes ago. His tone carried no room for argument. Go. She went. The bulletproof Maybach idled at the curb, engine purring under the storm. Miguel slid in beside her, instead of taking the opposite seat. The partition rose with a whisper, sealing them in leather-scented privacy. London slid past in silver streaks. For a full minute neither spoke. Then Miguel turned to her, close enough that she caught the faint scent of cedar and gun oil. Explain, he said quietly. How does a girl from London speak the dialect of my village better than my own cousins? I am not from London. The confession came easier than she expected. I was born in Cosenza. My father was Antonio Costa. Manuscripts. He consulted for the Vatican secret archives when I was 16. By 19 I had published 3 papers on Calabrian notarial fraud that no one else could read because the dialect was already dying. She stared at her hands. 4 years ago, someone wanted a forgery he would not make. They put 3 bullets in him behind the fish market in Naples. I was 20. I ran. Changed my name. Ended up here. Miguel listened without moving. When she finished, the silence felt different, heavier. Your father saved my uncle's life in 1998, he said at last. Hid him for 9 days during a feud. We owe blood debt to the Costa family. He reached over and brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear, the gesture startlingly gentle. Tonight the debt begins to be repaid. The car stopped outside a narrow Bloomsbury walk-up that smelled of damp and yesterday's curry. Miguel waited while she packed. 2 changes of clothes, her mother's medical files, the photograph of her parents on their wedding day. 8 minutes later she was back in the Maybach, 1 small duffel on the seat between them like a border. The drive to Mayfair took 20 minutes and felt like crossing an ocean. Miguel's residence occupied 3 joined Georgian houses behind a discreet steel gate. Armed men nodded as the car descended into an underground garage that could have parked a fleet. An elevator opened directly into a marble foyer lit soft gold. A severe woman in her 50s waited with a tablet. Sir. Lucia, this is Signorina Costa. She answers only to me. Give her full access. Everything. Lucia's eyes flicked over Amelia once, professional and unreadable. Yes, sir. Suite is prepared. Miguel waved the formality away. Later. Bring coffee to the library. Strong. The library occupied the entire first floor, walls of books climbing to a painted ceiling 20 feet high. A fire already burned. On the long table waited 5 objects under individual glass domes: a illuminated psalter, a Bourbon-era ledger, 2 folded letters, 1 small ivory-bound prayer book. Miguel removed his jacket, rolled his sleeves, revealing forearms mapped in old scars and older ink. These arrived in the last month. My previous expert cleared everyone. Total value 80 million, if they are real. Begin. Amelia set her bag down and stepped to the table. The first dome lifted with a soft hiss of climate control. She bent over the psalter, eyes tracing pigment layers without touching. 3 minutes later, she straightened.
Fake.
Ultramarine is synthetic lapis substitute, post-1950s process. Miguel's expression did not change, but something dangerous sparked behind his eyes. She moved to the ledger.
Fake.
Iron gall ink is correct, period, but the paper was tea-stained last year. Fibers too uniform. One by one she dismantled them. By the 5th piece, the prayer book, her voice was steady steel. 19th century binding, 15th century pages inserted upside down. Amateur pride in the mistake. When the last dome settled back, Miguel stared at the ruined treasures for a long moment. Then he took out his phone, typed a short message, and pocketed it again. 1 million euros is in the Zurich account now, he said. Another million every month until your mother no longer needs it. You will never wait tables again. Amelia felt the words land like stones in still water. I did not ask for. You did not have to. He stepped closer, close enough that the firelight painted gold across the Madonna on his chest. You are the first person in 10 years who has looked at my world and seen truth instead of fear. That makes you rare. His gaze traveled over her face, slow, deliberate, dangerous. Mine. The air between them thickened. She should have stepped back. Instead, she held his stare. Lucia entered with a silver tray, set it down, and vanished without a word. Miguel poured 2 espressos, handed her one. Their fingers brushed. Neither moved away. Tomorrow we start finding who wants me ruined, he said. Tonight you sleep. Your rooms are upstairs. He walked her to the door, paused. Amelia. She turned. Thank you for speaking, he said, voice rough. Most people learn too late that silence costs more than bullets. Upstairs, the suite was larger than her old flat. She stood under the shower until the water ran cold, washing away for years of Villa Aurora and cheap soap. When she finally slid between sheets that cost more than her monthly rent had been, exhaustion pulled her under like a tide. Down in the library, Miguel stood alone among the glass domes and the ruins of $80 million. He lifted the prayer book, turned it in the firelight, and for the first time in years felt something close to fear. Not of the forger. Of how much he already wanted the woman who had unmasked him. In the hush before dawn, the Mayfair house settled around its new center of gravity, and outside, London kept raining as though the city itself understood some debts could never truly be repaid. They could only be claimed. Dawn leaked gray through the tall windows when Amelia woke. For one disorienting second, she thought she was still in her old flat. Then the scent of real coffee and the weight of Egyptian cotton reminded her everything had changed. Lucia waited outside the door with a tray and a simple black dress that fit perfectly. Senior Reed is in the gym. He says when you are ready, the vault. Amelia drank the coffee, showered again because she could, and followed Lucia down corridors she had not seen the night before. A retinal scanner and a keyed elevator took them 3 floors below street level. The doors opened onto cool, dry air and the faint hum of filtration. The vault was larger than most museums. Rows of steel drawers, glass cases, and one central pedestal beneath the spotlight. On the pedestal rested a thick codex bound in dark leather, brass corners worn soft by generations of hands. Miguel waited beside it, hair still damp from his workout, wearing a black t-shirt that clung to fresh sweat. He looked less like a crime lord and more like a man guarding his soul. This, he said, voice low, is the heart of the family. My great-grandfather Salvatore wrote it in 1892. Every land deal, every blood oath, every secret that kept us alive through 3 wars. No one outside Blood has ever read it. He lifted the cover with something close to reverence. I want you to tell me it is real. Amelia stepped forward. The pages were heavy vellum, ink faded to sepia. She turned them carefully, breathing in the scent of old wax and older promises. 10 minutes passed in silence, broken only by the soft turn of pages. She stopped on a passage dated March 1892, a land transfer near Plotty. One word carried a grave accent where it should have been acute. A tiny mark, invisible to anyone who did not know the dialect had shifted after the 1908 earthquake. No scanner would flag it. No scholar born after 1950 would notice. It is beautiful, she said softly. And it is a lie. Miguel's jaw tightened. Explain. The accent on Terra. In 1892, every notary in the Aspermont used acute after the Messina quake changed pronunciation. Grave did not return until the 1930s. Someone copied an original flawlessly, then betrayed themselves with one stroke. She met his eyes. Whoever did this studied your family for years. The lights died. Total darkness swallowed the vault, then red emergency strips flickered on. A heartbeat later, 3 reds danced across Amelia's chest like deadly fireflies. Down, Miguel roared. He hit her like a freight train, shoulder driving her to the floor behind the pedestal an instant before the first round punched through the glass wall above them. Shards rained in a glittering storm. The suppressed cough of a high-powered rifle echoed 3 more times, bullets sparking off steel drawers. Miguel's weight pinned her, one arm protecting her head, the other already drawing a pistol from beneath the t-shirt. He fired twice toward the terrace doors high above, blind but enough to force the shooter to duck. Stairwell, now, he growled in her ear. He hauled her up, shielding her body with his as they sprinted for the rear wall. Another round whined past, close enough to part her hair. Miguel slammed his palm against a hidden panel. A section of shelving swung inward, revealing a narrow service corridor lit by red strips. They stumbled inside. The door hissed shut behind them, sealing with a heavy thud. Muzzle flashes lit the vault beyond as his security team returned fire from upper balconies. In the sudden dark and quiet of the corridor, adrenaline crashed over them both. Amelia's heart hammered so hard, she felt it in her teeth. Miguel's breathing was ragged against her neck, one hand still fisted in the back of her dress, the other braced against the wall beside her head. They were alive. She turned in the cage of his arms. Could not see him, could only feel heat and tremor and the fast thud of his pulse under her palm where it rested on his chest. Miguel. The single word broke something in him. He cupped her face with both hands and kissed her like a man drowning. No gentleness, only raw need and gratitude, and the metallic taste of fear. She kissed him back just as fiercely, fingers digging into the muscle of his shoulders, claiming the only solid thing in a world that had just tried to kill her. When they broke apart, foreheads still touching, his voice was rough gravel. No one touches what is mine. The possessive note should have terrified her. Instead, it settled warm in her stomach. Alarms began to wail faintly through the walls. Boots pounded somewhere above. Miguel took her hand, lacing their fingers tight.
Come.
We find who sent the shooter. And we end them. Together they moved deeper into the hidden corridor, 2 shadows running toward war instead of away from it, bound now by more than debt or money.
By choice.
The hidden corridor spat them out into the underground garage. Miguel's men swarmed, rifles up, faces grim under red emergency lights. The shooter had vanished into the rain, leaving only shattered glass and 3 spent casings on the terrace. Miguel issued orders in clipped Calabrian. The house sealed. Every camera feed pulled. The codex locked down again. No one in or out until the traitor was found. We are not safe here anymore, he said to Amelia. Not until I know who knew about the terrace sightline. Mateo appeared at his side, jacket slung over one arm, eyes sharp. Take the Docklands place. No one outside the inner circle knows it exists. Miguel nodded once. You come with us. Mateo's smile did not reach his eyes. Of course. Protection. 40 minutes later, a blacked-out van pulled into a derelict warehouse on the Isle of Dogs. From the outside, it looked condemned, corrugated iron scarred by salt and neglect. Inside, steel doors rolled up to reveal a temperature-controlled fortress stacked with crates stamped Napoli, Palermo, Marseille. Miguel's contested acquisitions. Pieces too hot for Mayfair, waiting for Amelia's verdict. They worked through the day. She condemned 11 more items, each revelation tightening the noose around an unseen neck. By nightfall, the warehouse felt less like a refuge and more like a trap. Miguel poured 3 glasses of 1945 Barolo from a crate marked fragile. "To surviving the morning," he said. Matteo raised his glass, then excused himself to check the perimeter. Amelia sipped the wine and felt the century on her tongue. "This bottle is worth more than my old flat." "Tonight it is just wine," Miguel answered, voice low. He stood close enough that she could feel the heat coming off him. The lights died without warning. Not a flicker, a hard cut to black. The temperature pumps whined and stopped. Emergency strips glowed faint red. Miguel's hand found hers instantly. "Matteo?" No answer. Then came the crash of the main doors being forced, the acrid splash of petrol hitting concrete, the whoosh of flame racing along poured trails. Fire bloomed orange and hungry. Masked figures poured in 6, 8, automatic weapons spitting controlled bursts into the ceiling to herd them. Crates ignited like tinder, 1,000-year-old wood roaring into inferno. Miguel dragged Amelia behind a stack of crates, returned fire with a pistol he never seemed to be without. Brass casings pinged off metal. "They knew exactly where we would be," he snarled. Amelia's mind raced. The Barolo crate sat open at her feet, 24 bottles of liquid history. She grabbed one by the neck, ripped the cork with her teeth, stuffed a strip torn from her sleeve into the bottle. "Light me." Miguel understood instantly. He thumbed his lighter, touched flame to cloth. She hurled the bottle over the crates. It shattered in a bloom of fire that swallowed 2 attackers, their screams cut short. Again and again she threw, each Molotov a 40,000-pound grenade. Flames rolled across the floor, cutting the warehouse into islands of light and hell. They fought back to back. Miguel's shots precise, hers wild but effective. Heat seared their skin. Smoke clawed their lungs. A masked man rounded the crate with a shotgun. Miguel spun, shoved Amelia down, took the blast high in the shoulder, and sighed. Blood sprayed, hot across her cheek. He staggered but did not fall, emptied his magazine into the attacker, then dropped the empty gun and pulled another from his waistband without pause. "Side exit," he shouted over the roar. Amelia hooked his good arm over her shoulder, half carried, half dragged him through corridors of fire. Bullets chased them, splintering wood and glass. A burning beam crashed behind, sealing pursuit. They burst into cold night air and collapsed on wet concrete as the warehouse became a furnace behind them. Sirens already wailed in the distance. Someone had called it in. Miguel's men would handle the rest. The ambulance arrived fast. Paramedics cut away his shirt, revealing 2 ugly holes pumping blood. They jammed IVs, slapped pressure bandages. Amelia climbed in beside him, soot-streaked, hands shaking. Miguel caught her wrist as the drugs began to pull him under. "Listen," he rasped. "I was 7 when they killed my parents. Since then, no one this close. No one I would burn the world to keep." His fingers tightened, slick with blood. "You, Amelia. Only you." She leaned over him, tears cutting clean tracks through the grime on her face. "I am not going anywhere," she whispered. His eyes fluttered. "Good," he slurred, morphine dragging him down. "Because I am keeping you."
The doors slammed.
The ambulance screamed toward the private clinic, leaving the warehouse to burn like a funeral pyre for everything that had almost ended them. In the jumping red lights, Amelia looked at the man bleeding on the gurney and understood, with a clarity that terrified and thrilled her, that she was no longer falling. She had already fallen. Hard. And there was no way back. The ambulance doors slammed and the world narrowed to sirens and the copper smell of blood. By the time they reached the private clinic in Marylebone, Miguel was conscious again, gray-faced but refusing the stretcher until Amelia walked beside him. They kept him 72 hours. 2 bullets removed, 1 lung nicked, arteries missed by millimeters. On the 4th morning, he signed himself out against every doctor's advice and moved them both to a nondescript safe flat above a shuttered tailor shop in Clerkenwell. No name on the bell, no records, only 3 trusted men on rotation and Mateo coordinating outside. Amelia did not leave the flat for 8 days. She nursed Miguel through fever and painkillers, changed dressings, slept in snatches on the sofa when he finally let her. When the pain eased enough for him to sit upright, she brought her laptop and the encrypted drive Miguel's people had salvaged from the warehouse ashes. "I need to see every report from the Milan laboratory," she told him. "All of them. Last 2 years." He watched her with heavy-lidded eyes, then gave the order. The files arrived in waves: carbon dating, spectroscopy, X-ray fluorescence, ink analysis. Hundreds of pages stamped with the respected crest of Laboratory Scientifica Milano, the facility every major collector in Europe trusted without question. Amelia read until her vision blurred, cross-referencing dates, batch numbers, signatures. On the 3rd night, she found the pattern. Every report that declared an item authentic carried the same technician code, GF 27. Every report that quietly flagged problems and had been overridden by a senior sign-off belonged to a different technician who had left the lab 6 months earlier. She woke Miguel at 2 in the morning. "They're swapping reports," she said without greeting. "Clean originals go in, doctored versions come out. Someone inside the lab has been authenticating forgeries for at least 18 months. Miguel stared at the ceiling a long moment. "How many pieces?" 43 that I can tie directly. Total exposure close to 600 million. She hesitated. "There is more." She zoomed in on a high-resolution scan of a forged bourbon ledger she had condemned weeks ago. Beneath the ink, almost invisible unless you knew to look, faint grid lines appeared under polarized light. "Micro-etching," she whispered. "Laser-etched coordinates. Not on every forgery, only the expensive ones. Someone has been using your own purchases to map every hidden vault you own. Naples, Marseille, Antwerp, Lisbon." She clicked to the next image. "And one set I don't recognize. Northern Calabria, deep mountain." Miguelish went very still. "My grandfather's emergency cache. Only 4 people alive know it exists." Amelia met his eyes. "Then one of them is selling you." The room felt colder, though the radiator clanked steadily. Miguel reached for his phone, thumb hovering. "I trusted that laboratory with my life. Someone there trusted you with a noose." He set the phone down without dialing. For the first time since she had known him, uncertainty flickered across his face. Footsteps sounded on the stairs outside. 3 measured knocks, Mateo's pattern. Miguel's hand slid under the pillow for the pistol he kept there now. Amelia's pulse spiked. The door opened. Mateo stepped in carrying 2 paper bags of food, rain on his shoulders. His smile looked the same as always, easy, almost boyish. "Brought salt beef from the place on Brick Lane," he said, setting the bags on the table. "Figured you'd be sick of hospital food." His gaze flicked to the laptop screen still showing the etched coordinates, then to Amelia. Something cold passed behind his eyes and was gone. "How is the patient?" he asked. "Better," Miguel answered. Voice flat. Mateo nodded, began unpacking sandwiches.
"Good.
"We need you strong. Word is the Russians are asking questions about the warehouse fire. They think someone is moving on your territory." Miguel watched his oldest friend the way a wolf watches another wolf circle the pack. Amelia closed the laptop slowly. The air in the small flat had changed, grown thin and sharp, like the moment before lightning. Mateo handed her a sandwich wrapped in greaseproof paper. His fingers brushed hers, deliberate. "Eat," he said softly. "You look like you have not slept in days." She took the sandwich, but did not eat. Miguel's eyes never left Mateo's face. Later, when Mateo had gone to take the night watch downstairs, Miguel pulled Amelia close on the narrow bed. "The coordinates," he whispered against her hair. "Destroy the files." memorize them, then wipe everything. You think it is him? I think I have been blind for too long. His arm tightened around her waist, careful of the healing wounds. From now on, the only person I trust is the woman who saved my life with 6 words. Amelia turned in his arms, pressed her forehead to his. Then trust me when I say we are running out of time. Whoever is doing this is already inside the walls. Outside, London rain started again, soft and relentless, washing the city clean for the betrayal that was coming. Inside the safe flat, 2 people held each other in the dark and listened to the storm gather. The rain followed them all the way to Naples. A black Falcon 8X lifted off from a private strip north of London before dawn, Miguel refusing the recliner seat until painkillers dulled the fire in his shoulder. Amelia sat beside him, coordinates memorized and every compromising file wiped clean. Matteo had stayed behind to hold London, his goodbye hug a fraction too tight, his eyes unreadable. They landed at Capodichino under a bruised sky and drove straight into the old city in an armored SUV with tinted windows. Miguel had arranged everything. No hotel, no records, only a leased cliffside villa above Pozzolippo that belonged to a dead priest and asked no questions. First, though, the university. The archives closed to the public at 8, but Professor DeLillo was 83 and kept his own hours. He met them at a side door, white hair wild, cardigan smelling of pipe tobacco and old paper. Antonio's daughter, he said, embracing Amelia like a grandfather. You have his eyes. He locked the door behind them and led them down stone steps into the subterranean vaults where the air tasted of dust and candle wax. On a long oak table waited a single folder tied with faded red ribbon, Antonio Costa's private research, sealed since the night he died. Amelia's hands trembled as she undid the knot. Inside were photographs, chemical formulae, trial sheets of vellum aged with tea and sunlight, and one unfinished template, the perfect Calabrian land grant deed, dated 1799, designed never to be detected by any test known in 2021. Professor DeLillo's voice cracked. Your father was forced to begin this. He stalled for weeks. They grew impatient. He placed a frail hand on her shoulder. The forgeries you are seeing now are the children of this monster. Same acid balance in the ink, same laser-etched underlayer, same impossible dialect flaws hidden like poison. Amelia felt the room tilt. Flashbacks hit hard. She was 20 again, hiding in the wardrobe of their Naples flat, door cracked just enough to see. Her father on his knees, blood on his shirt. A man in a dark coat, holding the template. Finish it, Antonio, or we start with her fingers. Her father's voice, steady even then. You will kill me anyway. I die before I damn my soul. 3 shots. The smell of cordite. The template taken. Her screaming silenced by a gloved hand until the killers left. She came back to the present with tears on her cheeks and Miguel's arms around her, holding her up. Professor DeLillo closed the folder gently. Whoever has it learned from Antonio, then surpassed him. I am sorry, child. Miguel's embrace turned to steel. He spoke in the dialect of vengeance. They will learn from me next. They left the old man with an envelope thick enough to buy silence and safety for the rest of his life. The drive to the villa was quiet, the city falling away below them until only sea and sky remained. The house clung to the cliff like it had grown there. White stucco, bougainvillea bleeding purple down the walls, terraces open to the storm coming in from Capri. Inside, the staff had left dinner under warming lids and vanished. Miguel poured 2 glasses of Lacrima Christi, the wine of Vesuvius, deep red as old guilt. They ate on the terrace, wind whipping Amelia's hair loose from its tie, thunder rolling closer. When the plates were empty, he took her hand and led her inside. No words at first. Just the slow unbuttoning of shirts, the careful avoidance of his bandages, the slide of fabric to the floor. Moonlight through open shutters painted silver across their skin. He kissed her like a man who had waited his entire life to be careful with something precious. She kissed him back like a woman saying goodbye to every ghost that had ever touched her. They moved to the bedroom where the bed was wide and the sea crashed below. Slow, deliberate, every touch a promise. When he entered her, it felt like coming home and starting a war at the same time. After, they lay tangled, sweat cooling, thunder shaking the windows. Miguel traced the line of her spine with one finger. "Your father's death ends here," he whispered against her temple. "I swear on my blood. The men who ordered it, the man who finished his work, they all pay." Amelia pressed her lips to the fresh scar on his shoulder, tasting salt and new skin. "We pay together." Lightning flashed, illuminating the room for one white heartbeat. In that light his eyes were older than sin and fierce with possession. "Together," he echoed. Outside, the storm broke at last, rain lashing the villa like bullets that could not reach them anymore. Inside, two people who had spent years running from death finally turned to face it, side by side, hearts beating in the same dangerous rhythm. Naples slept uneasily below, unaware that its ghosts had just been summoned by the only two people alive willing to drag them screaming into the light. The storm over Naples broke at dawn, leaving the sea flat and gunmetal gray. Miguel's jet climbed north before the city woke, carrying them back to London with a taste of salt and vengeance still on their skin. They landed in rain again. A different rain, colder, sharper. The Clerkenwell safe flat felt smaller after the cliffside villa, the walls pressing in with unsaid accusations. Miguel moved carefully, ribs still taped, but the pain only sharpened his focus. He spent the first afternoon on encrypted calls, voice low, asking questions he had never asked before. Who had access to the Milan lab contracts? Who approved vault locations? Who knew about the Docklands warehouse? Matteo arrived at dusk with takeaway from the Italian on Rosebery Avenue and the easy smile Miguel had trusted since they were 7. "London is quiet," he reported, dropping the bags on the counter. "No chatter about the fire. Russians think it was insurance." Miguel watched him the way a man watches frost spread across glass. Amelia sat at the table with her laptop, pulling auction catalogs from the dark corners of the art world. One lot caught her eye immediately, a 1787 Calabrian ecclesiastical decree, provenance listed as Private Collection, Cosenza. Estimated £28 million. Black tie preview in 48 hours at Harrington and Sons, Mayfair. She turned the screen. This is the kill shot. If you bid and win, the forged decree transfers legal claim to every remaining Reed land holding still in dispute. One signature, and the empire is legally broke. Whoever planned this wants you bankrupt before they put you in the ground. Miguel's eyes went black. "Then we let them think they have won." Matteo leaned over her shoulder, too close. "Risky. We could just buy it quietly, disappear the seller." "No," Miguel said. "We attend.
We bid.
We smile for the cameras. And we watch who smiles back." Matteo shrugged, but Amelia saw the flicker. Satisfaction. Quickly hidden. That night Miguel sent her out for air. First time in days. "Take the Mercedes. Driver is Luca. 5 minutes, no more. I need you clear-headed." She argued, but the walls were closing in. She took the keys. The big car purred through Knightsbridge, Luca silent behind the wheel. Harrods loomed ahead, Christmas lights already blazing against the November gloom. Amelia watched shoppers hurry under umbrellas and felt almost normal for 30 seconds. Then the world turned white. The explosion punched the air from her lungs. The Mercedes lifted, slammed down. Windows spiderwebbing. Flames roared 20 meters ahead where a black Range Rover had been idling at the curb. The same model she had been scheduled to ride in that morning before Miguel changed the plan at the last minute. Luca swore in Neapolitan, threw the car into reverse, tires screaming as they shot backward through traffic. Her ears rang. Her phone buzzed. "Miguel. Amelia. Talk." "I'm alive," she managed. It was the other car. Silence on the line, deadly. "Get back here.
Now."
When they burst into the flat, Miguel was pacing like a caged wolf, shirt half unbuttoned, eyes wild. He grabbed her, hands running over arms, face, ribs, checking for damage that was not there. "They used a tracker," Luca reported, holding up a magnetic disc the size of a coin, scorched but intact. Slapped on the wrong car. Same model, same plates except the last digit. Miguel took the tracker, turned it over with fingers that trembled only Amelia could see. Only one person had touched both cars that morning. Mateo. Miguel's roar shook the windows. He put his fist through plaster, blood streaking down knuckles. Then the rage froze into something colder than the grave. He looked at Amelia. He wants you dead now.
Not just me.
You. She nodded, throat tight. Because I can read what he is writing. Miguel pulled her close, mouth against her temple. No one touches you again. He made 3 calls. Quiet. Final. Then he opened a wall safe and took out a velvet box. Inside lay a tiny earpiece and a ring, old gold set with a single black opal. Wear this, he said, sliding the ring onto her right hand. Tracker is in the stone. I will always find you. She stared at the ring, then at him. And the auction? We go tomorrow night. Full war paint. Mateo will be there, because he cannot resist watching us bleed. Miguel's smile had no warmth. We give him an audience. He cupped her face. The trap is simple. I bid. I win. I sign nothing until you stand beside me on the rostrum and read the decree aloud, in the old dialect, for the entire room. If it is fake, the world hears it die. If it is real, he shrugged, then we have bigger problems. Amelia turned the black opal under the light. And Mateo? Mateo will make his move when he thinks we are distracted by triumph. Miguel's voice dropped to a whisper meant only for her. This ends at Harrington and Sons. One way or another. Outside, emergency lights painted the city red and blue, sirens crying for a bomb that had missed its target. Inside the small flat, 2 people armed themselves with evening clothes and vengeance, dressing for the night that would either save an empire or bury it forever. The rain had stopped. London held its breath. The Harrington and Sons saleroom glittered like a jewel box of old money. Chandeliers blazed, champagne flowed, and London's richest pretended they did not notice the extra security in tailored dinner jackets. Miguel wore midnight blue, the cut hiding the vest and the fresh bandages. Amelia walked beside him in black silk that left her back bare except for the thin gold chain he had fastened that morning. The black opal ring caught the light every time she moved. Mateo was already there, leaning against a marble pillar with a flute he never drank from, watching them cross the room like a man watching the gallows being built. Miguel bid calmly, voice carrying just enough menace to clear the floor. 25 million. 27. 30. When the hammer fell at 32,000,008, polite applause rippled. Mateo's smile was small and sharp. Miguel lifted Amelia's hand to his lips, a public claim, then leaned close. He just swallowed the bait. The decree was delivered to a private viewing room for final signing. Amelia opened the velvet case, let the room see her study the parchment for 1 theatrical minute, then closed it again. Perfect, she said loudly in English. We will take possession tonight. Mateo stepped forward, all concern. Miguel, let me arrange transport. Safer if we move it together. Miguel met his oldest friend's eyes and lied, without blinking. There is one last place I need Amelia to check it against the family seal. Old crypt under the river. Only 3 of us know the way. You, me, and now her. Midnight. Mateo could not refuse without confessing. Of course. For the family. They left separately, converged again beneath a forgotten church near Southwark Bridge. A rusted gate opened onto stone stairs that spiraled down into the throat of the city. Water dripped. The air smelled of the Thames and 14 centuries of dead monks. Phone torches cast long shadows. The crypt stretched wide, columns rising into darkness, black water ankle-deep and rising with the tide. Mateo walked between them, gun loose in his hand now that no witnesses remained. Miguel stopped at the center, beneath a cracked vault rib, and set the decree case on a fallen altar stone. "Show me the seal," he said. Mateo laughed once, short and ugly. "No need, brother. You will not leave here to sign anything." He raised the pistol. Everything happened at once. Miguel did not flinch. 2 years, Mateo. 2 years you sold me piece by piece to the Russians. You think I did not see? Mateo's face twisted. You saw nothing. You were busy playing house with the waitress while the world moved on. The Russians offered real money, real power. You went soft the day you started caring about old paper instead of new territory. He leveled the gun at Miguel's heart. Goodbye, brother. The shot was deafening in the stone chamber. Miguel staggered back 1 step, red blooming across his white shirt. Amelia screamed something wordless and launched herself at Mateo. She hit him low, shoulder driving into his gut, momentum carrying them both into the freezing water. The gun spun away across the flagstones. Mateo roared, fist smashing into her ribs, but she clawed at his eyes, knees driving into soft places. They rolled, water closing over their heads, her nails raking his cheek deep enough to bleed. She came up gasping. Mateo had her hair, forcing her face toward the flood. She bit his wrist to the bone. Behind them, Miguel dropped to his knees, blood pouring between fingers pressed to his chest. But his other hand found the backup pistol strapped to his ankle. He raised it, arm shaking, and emptied the entire magazine into Mateo's side. Mateo convulsed, grip loosening. Amelia broke free, coughing black water. Heavy boots thundered down the stairs. Loyal capos flooded the crypt, torches sweeping, guns trained. 2 dragged Mateo out of the water, his blood swirling pink into the flood. He was alive, barely, laughing through red teeth. Too late, he rasped. The Russians already have the coordinates. Miguel sank back against a pillar, the pistol falling from numb fingers. Amelia crawled to him, hands pressing the wound that would not stop bleeding. Stay with me, she ordered in Calabrian, voice cracking. You do not get to die here. He smiled, faint and fierce. Then marry me, Amelia Costa. After this. Medics pushed through, tearing open trauma kits, shouting about pressure and lines. Amelia cradled his head, water lapping at them both, and answered in the old mountain tongue, only they still spoke. TAMU, Miguel read. From the first 6 words to the last breath. Yes. His eyes fluttered, but the smile stayed. Above them the Thames kept rising, indifferent and ancient, while below, in the forgotten crypt, a dynasty bled and was reborn in the same moment. Mateo's laughter finally stopped when the zip ties went on. The medics lifted Miguel onto the stretcher. Amelia walked beside it all the way up the stairs, hand locked around his, refusing to let go even when they loaded him into the ambulance and the doors slammed against the night. London's lights blurred past the windows, red and white and merciless. She held on, whispering love in a dialect the city had never heard and never would again. The ambulance doors slammed against the London night, sirens carving a path through traffic that parted like the Red Sea. Amelia never let go of Miguel's hand, not in the ambulance, not through the chaos of the emergency doors, not even when they wheeled him into surgery with his blood soaking her dress. She waited in a private room that smelled of antiseptic and money, whispering the old Calabrian prayers her father had taught her until the surgeon finally emerged. He will live, the man said. The bullet missed the heart by centimeters. He is strong. Amelia closed her eyes and let the tears come. 1 week later, Miguel opened his eyes to afternoon light slanting through blinds and Amelia asleep in the chair beside his bed, her hand still in his. The empire had not fallen. While he lay unconscious, his loyal capos had moved like wolves. Raids in Naples, Milan, Antwerp. The Milan laboratory director arrested mid-flight to Dubai. Forgers picked up from their workshops with their own acid still burning holes in tables. Bank accounts frozen from Geneva to the Caymans. Every coordinate Mateo had sold led to an empty vault. Miguel had moved the real reserves the night he first suspected betrayal. By the time Miguel could sit upright, the forgery ring was ash and memory. Mateo had been taken to a place that did not exist on any map. No one asked questions they did not want answered. 6 weeks later, the headlines screamed across Europe. Camorra bloodbath in Thames crypt. billion-euro art fraud collapses. The waitress who brought down an empire. Amelia read none of them. She and Miguel had vanished to a glass-walled house above Lake Como while he finished healing. Days measured in slow walks along the water and nights measured in the language, only they still spoke. Mateo's disappearance was simply that, disappearance. A fishing boat found empty 10 miles offshore. No body. No questions. The Russians sent a polite delegation with a bottle of 1945 vodka and assurances that old agreements were dissolved. Miguel accepted the bottle and sent them home alive. 3 months later, the launch party for Waitress Maritime filled the Monaco Yacht Club with legitimate money for the first time in 3 generations. Container ships flying spotless flags, contracts with governments instead of ghosts. Miguel stood on the podium in a suit that cost more than most cars, scars hidden, eyes only on Amelia at his side in emerald silk. She took the microphone when he stepped back. The Waitress Institute for Endangered Italian Dialects opens today, she said, voice clear across the room. We will record the last speakers of Arboresh, Greco, and the mountain Calabrian. No one has spoken outside 3 villages in 50 years. Because some things are worth more than money. Cameras flashed. The world saw a beautiful woman and a reformed king. They did not see the black opal ring now joined by a plain gold band on her right hand, or the way Miguel's fingers rested possessively on the small of her back. That night they left the party early, boarding the new yacht christened Costa. The crew vanished below the moment Capri's lights appeared on the horizon. Miguel led her to the bow where the sea was black glass and the stars felt close enough to touch. He dropped to one knee, slower than he once would have because some wounds never fully fade, and opened a small leather box. Inside lay a ring forged from the melted wax seals of every forgery she had ever unmasked, gold threaded through red like blood in marble. He looked up at her, eyes fierce in the moonlight. In perfect, ancient Calabrian, he asked the question he had carried since the crypt. Amelia Costa, Voo essere mugere mia? Will you be my wife? She answered in the same tongue, voice breaking on laughter and tears. See Miguel read. Do you prima momento sia ti agio visto?
Yes.
From the first moment I saw you. He rose and kissed her as the yacht rocked gently beneath them, Capri lights dancing on water that had seen empires rise and fall for 2,000 years. Behind them, the melted seals of their enemies glittered on her finger, transformed into something eternal. They had earned this peace in blood and fire, in 6 forbidden words spoken over a table of lies, in every bullet they had taken for each other. The yacht sailed on into the night, carrying the last speakers of a dying dialect and the new beginning of a legend that would outlast them both. Somewhere beneath the keel, the Mediterranean kept its old secrets. Above, 2 people who had once been invisible and invincible in all the wrong ways finally learned how to simply be. Together. Forever.